1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honeybee.
Honeybee and I are two best friends making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and here we are in 2005 with yet another King Kong.
That was the crowd going wild.
Yeah. This is the one directed by Peter Jackson after he got done with Lord of the Rings.
Woo!
It is 188 minutes
You heard that
in
correctly.
English, in color.
3 fucking hours.
I watched the extended version, which is about 12 minutes and a little bit more longer than the theatrical, but the theatrical is still, over 3 hours. The budget, $207 million. Box office, $556.9 million. So, well done.
All
there.
right.
So, this was after Lord of the Rings and before The Hobbit. Originally, he wasn't going to direct The Hobbit movies, but that's a whole other thing. King Kong is Peter Jackson's favorite movie. I mean, the original. His first movie he saw, or at least the first one he remembers seeing, is his favorite movie. When he was a kid, he built a paper mache model of the top of the Empire State Building with a King Kong on it,
Aww.
which he still has. Because I was, not just now, but a while back, when I first got the DVD, I was watching, behind the scenes stuff, and he was showing that off to somebody. I can't remember who. I believe he wanted
cool.
Fay Wray to make a cameo, but she passed away before they were able to make that happen.
No.
I think everything was already in place, but they hadn't actually begun filming yet. So that's
Well, I will
unfortunate.
say that he did a lot of things in this movie to kind of keep the spirit of the original alive. I think that he really paid homage to that movie, and you could
Yes.
definitely tell that it was his favorite because he really kept the spirit, I feel like, in this movie in certain little ways. And I do like how he did kind of make the joke. I guess it's Jack Black who makes the joke about like getting Fay Wray
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
the actress.
Yeah. Their actress has dropped out on them, and they're going through other ones that could maybe do it, and then mentioning all real people. And they need someone that's a size 4 to fit the costumes that they already have. And he says, Faye's a size 4. And he says, Faye can't do it. She's making a film for RKO. And he's like, Cooper.
Yeah.
In this world, they can't be making King Kong, but as we know, and those of
Yeah.
you who've listened to this show know, they were working on another movie at that time. They made it at the same time as King Kong. So within that world, they must be talking about the deadliest prey. No, most dangerous game, not deadliest prey. Most dangerous game.
Nah, tomato.
Because, Miriam C. Cooper and Fay Wray and, what's it, Jack Armstrong? Is that his name?
Yes.
We're making that movie at night while they made King Kong during the day. I don't know if you watched all the credits, but at the very end, he says that the film is dedicated to the original adventurers of Skull Island. Miriam C. Cooper, what's his name? Shodzak, the guy I just said. and
All
and
those
the
guys.
incomparable Fay Ray, and something about they inspired all those who came after them, or something along those lines. So that was really nice. Let's take a look at our cast.
Yeah.
Naomi Watts as Ann Darrow. Andy Serkis as Kong, but he's also Lumpy, the ship's cook. Cook, barber, and surgeon. Adrian Brody as Jack Driscoll. They really changed his character a lot.
Very young Adrian, an undercooked Adrian Brody, like you say. He wasn't fully baked yet.
Jack Black as Carl Denham. Thomas
Ayo.
Kretschmann as Captain Anglehorn. Colin Hanks as Preston. Jamie Bell as Jimmy. Evan Park as Benjamin Ben Hayes. Lobo Chan as Choi, not Charlie.
Not Charlie.
There's still a Chinese crewman who is not compelled to have a tacky accent, but he is not Charlie, which I found a little disappointing.
Same.
Kyle Chandler as Bruce Baxter, who is a new character in this movie. John Sumner as Herb. Craig Hall as Mike. William Johnson as Manny. Mark Hadlow as Harry. Jed Brophy as Todd Rippon. Oh, I'm sorry. It says Jed Brophy and Todd Rippon appeared in the film as crew members. Who the fuck are they? Are they producers? There's a couple of, it looks like there are a couple of New Zealand guys that he likes to use a lot. In addition, director Jackson appears with makeup artist Rick Baker, who had portrayed Kong and designed makeup for the 76 version, as the pilot and gunner of the airplane that kills the title character. Oh man, I blinked. I didn't see them. I knew that Peter likes to do cameos in his movies like Alfred Hitchcock. His children appear as New York children. Lord of the Rings producer Rick Porras and Shawshank Redemption director Frank Darabont appear as gunners in the other airplanes, and Bob Burns and his wife appear as New York bystanders. Frequent Jackson collaborator Howard Shore makes a cameo appearance as a conductor of the New York theater from where Kong escapes. Oh, that was cool. He was initially set to compose the film before his exit. So who did compose it? Music by James Newton Howard. Okay. Any other? I think Preston is also a new character. Preston and Herb, the cameraman and sound man.
I don't know how necessary Jimmy's storyline was for me in this movie.
I was looking him up, though. Or actually, I was looking up what the book was he was reading because I didn't see it. I thought I knew what it was, and I was correct, but I was double-checking. And it didn't. It was some, Kong Wikipedia kind of thing, and it mentioned there's a Jimmy in the first movie, but I don't remember anything about him, so...
Yeah, he didn't have a whole backstory.
Yeah.
That was completely useless to the plot.
I think they wanted you to care about who these people were.
Sure.
Peter Jackson was 9 years old when he first saw the 1933 film and was in tears in front of the TV when Kong was shot and fell off the Empire State Building. Aww. At age 12, he
That would
attempted to
make
recreate the
sense.
film using his parents' Super 8mm film camera. I'm not going to just read this whole Wikipedia article to you folks. You can look that stuff up yourself. Honey Bee, what are your first thoughts on King Kong by Peter Jackson?
Well, initially, I was like, surely I have seen this movie because it's like 2005. So I was like, I've probably seen it. I just don't remember it. But then actually watching it, I don't think I had seen this movie. None of it was familiar to me. I guess it just missed me. But I thought that Jack Black was a fantastic Carl Denham choice. I would say that this movie, because since we started with King Kong, right, and we've done so many King Kong episodes, so many movies, I would say that this is probably the first episode for me personally where I feel like I kind of get the Kong hype. Because before this movie, I mean, because like in the Legendary series, sure, obviously, like Kong is a badass. But going back, like in, 33 and until now, until 2005, it's kind of hard for me to like Kong. I just kind of don't. And I feel bad for that, especially hearing other people talk about it. Like you were saying, like this guy, it was his favorite movie. He had tears in his eyes. La-di-la-di-la. I just have not really ever cared for Kong because I feel like in comparison to Godzilla, it's like very obvious why he's only King Kong and Godzilla is Godzilla. It's like they're just so different, and I feel like King Kong is kind of lame. It's just kind of lame. And obviously we can't have any of this shit without King Kong, so I do have a respect for Kong. But as far as people's connection to him and like the last few movies, I've kind of like, okay, I kind of like this better than, in the 30s or the 60s or what have you. But this movie, I feel like really changed that for me. I would say that this movie is pretty much my first Kong movie where I really get the hype, and I kind of feel like, okay, I feel like this movie kind of made me a King Kong fan in a way, because I feel like they took the best parts of Mighty Joe Young and like the emotion, kind of like humanizing, just like the facial expressions, all of these things, they kind of gave Kong this like sort of connection. And knowing that this was, Jackson's favorite movie and like how he felt about watching it when he was 8 or 9 and he's like crying, makes perfect sense as to why he put so much emotion into this movie and into Kong. And it makes it super special to me. And I think I'm just like super, into it. I just really loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. I did not know it was 3 hours long, and I paused it at one point about 2 hours in and realized I still had an entire hour to go and was like, holy shit, I didn't even realize that. So it's kind of one of those things, where you could watch a movie for 3 hours and not even realize that it's 3 hours long because it's just so good. And there's so many things in this movie from the originals that make it so good. And so yeah, I thought it was fantastically done. I would say this is by far my favorite Kong movie that we've ever seen, or Kong thing that we have ever seen, that we've watched together as far as this show goes. And it really does set up Kong for me in the future things that I have already seen, where I'm like, yeah, this Kong is badass, but guy in a heavy rubber suit doesn't really do it for me personally. But yeah, I feel like this movie, I get it. I absolutely get it. I loved it. I felt like it took the best things that I loved about, Mighty Joe Young and kind of put it into the Kong story. And yeah, it was fantastic. Loved it.
I agree with all that.
But is there a but?
What I was going to say is basically the same as you, just in a different way. That this is, to me, the best version of King Kong, which obviously you couldn't have without the original existing. But,
of course,
if you're going to do a remake, you either have to do something brand new with it, or you have to do the same thing but just much better. Which is what Jackson, I think, did. He did the same thing but just did it much better. And he, his decision to set it in the period of the original film, I think it all... Yeah, he just wanted to take King Kong and turn it up to 11. He just wanted to make a bigger, better, if the original Kong was a 5-piece band, he wanted to turn it into a full symphony orchestra. And I think, and play the same tune, but with a full symphony orchestra. And I think that's what he did, and he succeeded. Even though you don't see Kong in the extended version, an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not sure how long it is in the theatrical version, but probably about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
He does make some changes.
It did such a good job of that. Like, yeah, there was a lot of people shit going on, but I feel like all of the people shit that was going on in that first hour and 10 minutes was really kind of us getting to go back and see all of those things better. I love that he really took his time too. It is 3 hours because we do get so much development. You know what I mean? But I thought it was so well done. So well done. And
I love Naomi Watts. I've loved her since Tank Girl.
Yes, she did amazing.
She plays Jet Girl in Tank Girl. Jack Black, in general, I like Jack Black, but a little Jack Black goes a long way.
You better watch
And-
your mouth.
Just saying, he can be a little, depending on what he's doing, he can be a little much. But he's not, but he doesn't do that in this movie. He keeps it grounded and under control, and he's playing Carl Denham. He's not playing Jack Black. We don't get any of his ring-a-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding, we don't. No nonsense.
Oh my gosh.
No, not. Hey, I love his cover of "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." It is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I love me some Jack Black for sure.
No, I've enjoyed a lot of things he's in, but every now and then I'm like, oh, Jack, can you dial it down a notch, or can I go away and come back later? It's not like I'm not putting him on the same level as Jim Carrey as far as annoyance level, but I'm just saying sometimes he gets right up against the edge there. But not in this movie. He's great. I'm really neutral on Adrian Brody, to be honest. I have no strong feelings about Adrian Brody.
My
Adrian Brody stuff.
strongest feelings about Adrian Brody. Okay, Adrian Brody for me was the person that made me discover that I have a thing for noses. Like, his nose is so big.
For broken
when
noses?
Oh God, gorgeous. I love that beak. That it just really does it for me. And Adrian Brody has such a good nose. And there's like even a point where he's kissing Anne and his nose is so big, it like bends against her cheek, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm into that." Adrian Brody has the nose of my dreams. But other than that, yeah, he just looked so young in this movie. I was just like, oh my gosh, when I saw him, like, oh, he's a baby. He looks very like, when we were talking about like how like Scarlett Johansson was like very undercooked, or like Charlize Theron, like just not quite right yet. I definitely felt that way in this movie about Adrian Brody, but I love him so much. I definitely love other things he's been in, and God, I love that honker, man. It is chef's kiss. That nose is just so good.
Well, maybe he should play the Shadow the next time they decide to do the Shadow. Okay, let's jump into our plot here. This could take a while. In 1933, during the Great Depression, struggling New York City vaudeville performer Ann Darrow is hired by financially troubled filmmaker Carl Denham to star in a film with actor Bruce Baxter. Now, the original film did not ignore the fact that there was a depression going on. And this movie, I feel, underlines it even more. They really highlight the depression. We even have the scene with her and trying to steal an apple.
Yes,
how
I
Carl
love that
rescues
they
her.
kept the apple scene. I really love that. It was a good one.
This Carl is just straight up in trouble. His investors are pissed. I think in the first one he was having trouble convincing investors, but in this one he already has investors and they're pissed off and don't want to give him any more money. And there's actually a warrant out for his arrest later in the film. We find out, because I guess he ran off with their boat or their money, or I don't know what.
With everything, yeah. I love that they give Anne a little bit of backstory too before they really start off, the movie, or like do the apple thing, where they kind of give her like a whole backstory of like she's this like dancer and she does this like funny bit and it's like super cute and she like really cares for the older guy who runs the theater, and they kind of give her this whole personality before we get into it, which is a nice change of pace, because as we have seen in the previous King Kongs, a lot of our like Anne characters don't have a lot of personality. They are just like there to scream and look pretty.
And the original Anne wasn't trying. The original Anne wasn't trying to be an actress,
right?
But we will see later in the Broadway version, which we will get to, folks. I don't know if they just took. They must have, that idea continues in the Broadway version, that she is actively trying to make it in showbiz when she gets offered this job. So I'm sure they must have seen this movie when they were developing the show.
Surely, yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention, this Kong is the most gorilla-like Kong. He's just straight up designed to look like a gorilla. Because a lot of the other Kongs are gorilla-like, but if you actually look closely at them, they're not shaped like gorillas. They don't walk like gorillas, move like gorillas. And this one is just a giant silverback gorilla.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. Clearly, they did some research, and Andy Serkis, was trying to move like an actual gorilla. So Kong Skull Island, he's just walking around upright all the time.
Right.
And,
Well, there's a few movies where Kong changes species right in the middle of the movie, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, they wanted him to look very, very realistic and very much like an actual gorilla. And I think that was the right thing.
Great job. Definitely.
Let's see. Anne is hesitant to join the picture until she learns her favorite playwright, Jack Driscoll, is the screenwriter. And this is a completely different characterization for Jack to turn him into a playwright.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he writes very fancy plays, not serious plays. I don't mean like high class plays, but like when I say fancy, I don't mean high society plays. I mean he writes very, very, very serious plays for serious actors, because it's a thing later that he wants to write a comedy for her because that's actually her specialty.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my place. I hit the wrong thing. Filming takes place on the SS Venture under Captain Engelhorn and under Carl's pretense that it will be sailing to Singapore. In truth, Carl intends to film the mysterious Skull Island, but this Carl doesn't seem to know anything about Kong. He knows about Skull Island, but he doesn't know about Kong. Captain Engelhorn reconsiders the voyage, prompted by his crew's speculation of trouble ahead. During the voyage, Anne and Jack fall in love. There was
But wait.
Go ahead.
Before we go on, there's so we have the moment in where Carl Denham is talking to his investors, and then they're he goes out of the room, doesn't listen to them, decides he's going to do this, decides he's going to take everybody on this boat with no permits, no money, no anything. He's just going to do it. And the cops are chasing him for whatever reason. And then they get on the boat and they're floating away up as the boat is 15 feet away from the dock. And I just laughed so hard because the cops are just oh man, we missed him. Better luck next time. It's just so funny that they don't even try to pursue him or anything. It's maybe that's a 1933 thing. I don't know. They're
There's
shit.
no harbor patrol that they can call.
Exactly. He just gets away, and I laughed so hard. I just love that. The cops are just darn. Well, oh well.
Yeah. Now, I think he added this Bruce Baxter because this is sort of a hole in the original movie, that he had to have a woman to have some romance, but he didn't have anyone for her to romance.
Aww.
So Peter Jackson has realized that they need a leading man in this movie too, and he's invented this new character. But I noticed when they're filming their scenes on the boat, they seem to be recreating some of the dialogue between Anne and Jack from the original movie.
They are.
So
I loved that. It was so cute. I loved that. That was
really good.
That was my next note. Also, I love the I feel if you want to know this Bruce Baxter's kind of character, because he doesn't get as deep as say the other characters like Johnny or Jack. He does have this bit, however, in The Mirror where Johnny's going around on the ship and fucking shit up because he's a kid who was found, whatever, blah blah blah, backstory that doesn't matter. But he goes and draws on these posters of Bruce, and he draws a mustache, and he's at first pissed off, but then he's oh, I kind of look good with a mustache, and he kind of does this bit in the mirror with his little mustache comb, and I was instantly, yes for me with this actor and the Bruce Baxter character. I loved it. It was so funny. I really loved his character. He just has little tiny moments throughout the movie that are very like hilarious and adorable.
He is the actor. He is the actor that brought 3 of his own posters along to hang in his cabin.
Yeah.
To look at. But yeah, then he later on he comes in acting like the character he plays on screen.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
So funny.
But we'll get to that. The Venture receives a radio message informing Engelhorn there's a warrant for Carl's arrest due to his defiance of the studio's orders to cease production. That doesn't seem like an arrestable offense. And instructing Engelhorn to divert to Rangoon. But the ship becomes lost in fog and runs aground on Skull Island.
And then
like
the map that he found that got them to this point literally blows away into the ocean after he notices like a Kong-like shaped what he thinks is a coffee stain on it. I'm like, wow, really? The map just blew? You didn't even try to catch it? Like, this seems very important, this map. And it was just like gone in like the first, I was like, okay, well, cool. We don't need the map anymore. It's fine.
Yeah. Carl and his film crew, including cameraman Herb, assistant Preston, actor Bruce Baxter, and boom operator Mike, explore the island, and Anne, explore the island, and are attacked by natives who kill Mike and a crewman. Engelhorn rescues the film crew, but as they prepare to leave, a native sneaks onto the ship and abducts Anne.
Yes, we got to.
These natives were just nuts.
So good.
This is the one part that I'm not sure I really liked. Because the natives in the original, even though were they actual? I can't remember if they were in blackface or they actually had.
They
black
were
actors.
1,000%
But
in blackface.
Or I couldn't remember if it was that or if it was a combination of elements or what. But they were, even though they were stereotypes, they were a tribe with a civilization and a culture. And these guys are just like insane. You know, people throw the word savage around and when they shouldn't. But these people were savages in this film. They were they didn't want to talk to you. They were just brutal killers who seemed like they were all on the verge of starvation and ready to eat your face.
Yeah.
And just insane.
Yeah.
Took no time to try to talk with anyone or negotiate with anyone or anything, which the ones in the original did do. So I thought, in a way, that these natives were actually kind of a step backwards.
Ugh, I did not feel that way at all. I felt the exact opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found them really, really uncomfortable in how sort of inhuman they were presented.
Oh, man. I loved it. I loved it. I loved that.
They were part of they were definitely doing a horror film thing with these natives, but
for sure.
I would have liked it better if they were presented as real people instead of crazy zombie people.
I thought that it really added for it to me, like the natives actually just being like scary, uncivilized, like jungle people who were hungry and ready to, and they had all of these kind of, I don't know if you'd call them traps, but like, you know, harpoons and shit like in the ground so that you couldn't, like Kong couldn't just jump in there, even though he does because he's Kong. But I really felt like these people were, yeah, savage for sure. But also I really thought it like added to the story and just like how scary that they were. It kind of added to the intensity of when everything kind of pops off and people start actually dying. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of shocked in this moment of like the natives and like when they kind of just stab that guy all the way through and people start dying. The scene where they're about to just bludgeon Carl Denham with this stick and there's like whoever they killed before him's blood dripping on his face and he's so scared and everyone's like really freaking out, and just that moment, it was fucking intense. I was not prepared. I was super in shock for that. I could not believe how intense it was just really getting, because that was fucking traumatizing. But I thought that it really added, especially to like the Carl Denham, just how sleazy he is, because even after going through all of this, he's still trying to carry his camera around. He's still just, Carl Denhaming it right the fuck up. It was just, but it was intense. There is that moment where they kill a guy, they're like holding him down. They like hit him in the head with this spiky stick thing, and they kind of throw him down, and then they throw Carl onto the same rock, and it's raining, and it's just a super scary moment. It was definitely horror movie, like in your chest, scary moment. But I will say something really funny about this scene is when the first native is like a child, and Carl tries to like give her chocolate, and he's like, take the chocolate. He gets like frustrated, and she like goes to, or they, I don't know, goes to like bite Carl, and Bruce is like, he says something like, I think I wrote it down. He's like, for God's sakes, leave the natives alone, Carl. And it just made me laugh so hard. This guy just sucks so bad, and no one can take him seriously, and he's literally getting attacked by this like rabid person, and they're like, oh, Carl, leave the damn natives alone. It just made me laugh so hard. But yeah, it was definitely scary movie worthy. And I
someone else is like, she doesn't want the chocolate, Carl.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that they kept the yoink in for Anne, too. You got to yoink Anne because it is part of it, baby. Yeah. And they left the necklace. So good.
I do like the way they did it was different, though. They had this, they were using these really long poles instead of just in a little boat and swimming over. They did this thing with pole vaulting across, and it looked really cool. So I did like that part.
Her scream is so perfect. Her scream is perfect for this role.
Yeah. The natives offer Anne as a sacrifice to Kong, a 25-foot tall ape. Jack notices Anne's disappearance, and the crew returns to the island, but Kong flees with Anne into the jungle. Carl catches a glimpse of Kong and becomes determined to film him. Anne wins Kong over with her juggling and dancing skills and begins to grasp his intelligence and capacity for emotion.
When he laughs, when he's laughing at her routine. Oh my gosh, so good. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Englehorn organizes a rescue party led by his first mate, Hayes and Jack, and accompanied by Carl, Herb, Baxter, and Preston. The party gets caught between a herd of Brontosaurus baxteri and a pack of Utahraptor-like Venatosaurus savidicus, hunting them, with Herb and several other men killed by the resulting stampede. This is a post-Jurassic Park movie, so you got to have some raptors. If there's dinosaurs, you got to have some raptors.
I will say I really love the time we get with the dinosaurs in this one. Like, it wasn't just like, haha, dinosaurs. Oh, Kong fights a dinosaur. Done. It was like, we got some fucking dinosaurs in this movie. And it was pretty freaking awesome. Also, I remember when we first watched this movie, like it was probably not the original, but the one after that, where we talked about how this is really bad math. Of like all these people trying to save this one girl in the forest, and they just keep dying. I thought about that so much in this movie. I just kept thinking about you saying, this is really bad math. Like, it's one girl here.
Yeah. I mean, how many men is one girl worth? If she's inherently more valuable than the men, then okay. But yeah, if all people are equal, then we've spent more than we're getting back. Yeah. But somewhere in here, I think, is when Baxter gets to act like a badass. Or is that later? Does he come back for them later? There's a point in all of this Skull Island shit when Baxter just comes swinging in with a machine gun and just looking awesome. And acting like, he actually learned shit in all those movies he had been making. Yes, as Baxter's and others return to the ship. So I think he comes back in later. The remaining party members continue through the jungle when Kong attacks, making them fall into a ravine. This is also a scene that was like in the original where they're on a log going across a ravine and Kong starts shaking them loose. Mm-hmm. Fall into a ravine where Carl loses his camera. Well, they also get attacked by just...
everything.
hundreds of giant bugs. There's all kinds of giant bugs down there who are not eating each other. They're just waiting for some humans to show up and they can chomp on them. And poor Andy Serkis gets his head eaten by some kind of a worm leech thing. It's really gross. It's very gross.
It's
folks.
so cool.
Kong rescues Anne from 3 Tyrannosaurus-like Vastosaurus Rex, bringing her to his den in the mountains.
Oh, man.
The remaining rescue party are attacked by giant insects in the ravine. There we go.
Yep.
Resulting in the death of Hayes and most of the rescue party. But Preston, Carl, Jack, and Hayes' apprentice Jimmy, who takes Hayes' hat, are rescued by Baxter. This is the part I was talking about. Baxter and Englehorn. They come back and they kick some ass and shoot up everything. Jack searches for Anne alone while Carl decides to capture Kong. Jack finds Kong's lair and accidentally awakens him. Oh yeah, they established early on that Englehorn, part of what he does is capture animals alive and like sell them to zoos. So he's got a whole bunch of chloroform on the ship, which is also different. Rather than Denham having some vague idea about Kong and bringing a bunch of sleeping gas bombs with him, Englehorn just happens to have a bunch of chloroform because he uses it regularly to capture animals.
Yeah. There's a really
Jack finds Kong's
there's
lair.
a really, before Jack finds the lair, there's a really great line here between the captain and Carl Denham when he basically calls Denham a cockroach, and I just love this so much. He's like, I can't believe we survived. He's like, that's the thing about cockroaches. You can like do all of this shit and they still scurry away and survive. And it's so true because all of these innocent people are like dying trying to rescue this bitch. And then like Carl Denham is just being a complete shit face, which I feel is completely on brand for him. And I love it. But at the same time, it's like, I just want to knock him out and shake him so hard. Also, there's this moment. Go ahead.
Well, when the first of his crew dies, and he's like, he died doing what he believed in. We're gonna finish this film for him, and I'm gonna donate the proceeds to his wife and children. And then the second time it happens, he says the exact same thing without acknowledging that he had already said it. But the guy he's saying it to is now looking at him sideways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did such a good job with that. And also, we kind of have this moment between Anne and Kong, where they're looking at the sunset after he's just fought the 3 T-Rex-like creatures, and they have this kind of moment over like looking at this beautiful sunset, and Anne kind of teaches him like this sign, I guess, where she like touches her chest and she's like saying like beautiful. And it's just this like such a good tender moment, and I really feel like this is the thing that I liked the most about Mighty Joe Young was the connection between Joe and the like little girl who grew up and was like then a woman, and like I just feel like they did such a good job in this movie of really establishing that connection and giving us those moments where we just feel so much between Anne and Kong. It was just so good. I was already pissed off at this point that the connection was so good between them and that I was feeling it so hard because I knew how it was going to end because I've seen the fucking movies, and I'm like, no, I cannot be crying this early in because this is going to hurt so much worse in 2 hours when this movie ends, and I'm devastated because I already know how it's going to end.
There's also in this section here a part where she's trying to do her comedy routine for him again, and this time he just doesn't seem interested. And I was like, because he's all worn out from fighting these dinosaurs, and I was like, read the room, man. Now's not the time. And that's when she turns and looks at the sunset, and it's like, oh, beautiful. Anyway,
so Jack
finds Kong's lair and accidentally awakens him. Yeah, he finds Anne and is trying to get her out of Kong's grip, but wakes up Kong. And then a bunch of bats wake up, start annoying Kong. So he can't grab them right away because these bats all get in the way. So they run off. And they arrive at the wall with Kong pursuing them. As Anne begs the crew not to harm him, Kong kills several sailors, but is subdued when Carl knocks him out with chloroform.
Oh gosh, this Kong screaming for Anne, it really hits me. But then Anne screaming, like trying to get away from everybody, saying like he wants me, like just let me go, he wants me. I was just like, God damn it, why do I care so much? I hate it. I hate when it makes me feel all the feels.
And then somehow they get Kong to New York. Like in the original, they just kind of skip over the details of how they managed to get him there. In New York City that winter, Carl presents Kong, the Eighth Wonder of the World on Broadway, starring Baxter and an imprisoned Kong. Anne, who refused to take part in the performance, is played by an anonymous chorus girl who did kind of look like her, but not enough to fool Kong. Well, Kong would know that she smelled different.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they don't address that, but he would have been able to tell. He probably more so by her smell than by how she looked,
Right.
because the girl did look a lot like her. And they didn't do the fake Arab proverb at the beginning of the movie, but Carl quotes it during this part during the show. Agitated by the chorus girl not being Anne and flashes from cameras, Kong breaks free from the chains and wrecks the theater, bursting out and through it, and rampages through the streets of New York in search of Anne. But also he spots Jack.
Yeah.
Jack has written his comedy. The comedy he was going to write for Anne, he has written and is currently putting on, but with somebody else in it.
And also
'Cause
has
I guess
no
communicates.
Yeah, he has no theater etiquette whatsoever because he's sitting there watching his own fucking play that he wrote. Suddenly, the script that he wrote just hits him and he understands it for the first time since writing it.
Yeah.
And then
not at any point during rehearsals.
right, no, and then stands up, and instead of walking back to the door, he walks in front of every single audience member ever to get out of the building. And I'm like, why would you do that, you piece of shit? Like,
It appears that I guess Anne was so mad at everybody that she just stopped talking to them. But he was like, well, I've already written a lot of this play. I may as well finish it and put it into production
God.
with somebody else. But apparently is not able to, because he doesn't know that Anne is not in the show until he gets there. So he was just assuming that she's too busy. I don't know. Some details left out.
Yeah. Also, there's this
anyway,
moment where where Carl is saying, like, all those men who died to, for us to get here and Kong to be on this, and it was like 17 deaths for, us to get Kong here and all this shit. And then Kong instantly, like, starts wrecking shit and destroying shit. And I was like, 18, 19, 20, 21. Like, because instantly he just starts picking people up and just throwing them and smashing them. And yeah. And then he sees Jack and he's like, where is she, you piece of shit?
Yeah, he's like, hey, it's that guy. I know that nose anywhere.
Yes.
But he says he chases Jack before encountering her again. So I guess Anne heard all the hubbub out in the street. She's being a chorus girl, so she's still trying to do showbiz, but she's just in the chorus somewhere. When she could have been starring in two different shows. Well, not both at the same. She had a choice of two shows to star in, and she's decided to go be in the chorus somewhere because she's mad at everybody. But she hears the hullabaloo and comes outside to see what's going on and figures out what's going on and goes looking for Kong while he's looking for her. Kong, let's see. The U.S. Army attacks and Kong tries getting Anne and himself to safety by climbing to the top of the Empire State Building.
Okay, but before that,
like you do.
Before the government comes, Anne just like comes through the streetlights in her white dress, and like her and Kong have this moment, and they have this like really romantic ice skating scene. And it's so sweet. And then the government comes.
There's there's a quiet moment before the final shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Of them just enjoying the ice. 6 Navy biplanes arrive, which Kong fights, downing 3 of them, but is mortally wounded from the plane's gunfire and falls from the building.
No!
As Jack reaches the top of the building to comfort and embrace Anne, civilians, policemen, and soldiers gather around the beast's corpse in the street. One bystander commenting, "The airplane's got him." Carl makes his way through the crowd, takes one last look at Kong, and says, "It wasn't the airplanes. It was Beauty killed the beast," before he walks away. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, no, it wasn't. It was you, Carl.
Yeah, it was you, Carl, you piece of shit.
It was you. It was all you.
It was all you. You know, okay, here's the thing, too, is that what annoyed me about Carl saying this, because, like, obviously he had to say it, right? Like, he had to. But he never even sees the moments between Anne and Kong. I feel like he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about, first of all. And second of all, I feel like when they have the moment on top of the building, Anne and Kong, where they're just, like, looking at the sunset and it's peaceful, I'm like, can't the movie just end here? Like, can we just... I don't want to watch the rest. Can it just end here, please? I just really did not want to finish it because I knew. And they just have so many moments, you know, before Kong actually falls and dies, and it's so fucking sad. I just really wanted the movie to end at, like, where they have the, like, whole full circle beautiful moment with the sunset. But no, they gotta fucking kill him and make it a big thing, and then Carl has to say it was Beauty who killed the beast, even though it was fucking you, Carl. It was you, Carl.
Oh, well, what are you going to do? Cry about it?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
I can't blame you. So, yeah, that's our plot. Honeybee, what do you want to say about King Kong 2005 by Peter Jackson?
King Kong 2005 King Kong is and will forever be the movie that made me a Kong fan, because, like I said, before this movie, I really just didn't get it. I was just like, okay. And I remember being at G-Fest, and this guy, we were in line, and we were talking to this gentleman, and he was like, I remember watching the original King Kong. It was one of my favorites to this day. I can watch it over and over, and it's just so good. And I'm, like, thinking in my head, like, what? Because, you know, to me, it just was not that kind of movie. And he's just, like, talking about it so passionately. And I'm just like, okay, well, hell yeah, man. And it just, like, you know, the nostalgia of the movie for him, and his dad had, like, taken him to the theater to see it. And there was just all of this shit. So I was like, hell yeah, you know, I get that. And I just really, up until this moment, I'd say the closest that I got to being a Kong fan. I did like the last few movies a little bit better than the originals, but for me, it was really, had nothing to do with Kong. It was really like Mighty Joe Young for me, and that was because it was so emotional. And I just feel like this movie took everything that was good from that movie and everything that was good from the original Kong storyline and just pieced it together and made this beautiful 3-hour long movie, and I loved it so much. 5 stars.
Yeah, I also give it 5 stars. Can't argue with any of that. It's the best Kong.
It is
the best Kong, including all the more recent ones. It's absolutely the best.
It's so good.
Go watch it, folks. Go watch it.
I feel like when I
did we say it was
watched,
showing
okay,
on
like
Netflix?
recently when we watched Godzilla X Kong, it's like you get that Kong, and I'm thinking in my brain, like, where the fuck did this Kong come from? Because this is not the Kong that we see getting up until this point. But I feel like this movie really kind of made that bridge for me between the original Kong and where we are now, where he's so emotional, and he has the connection with the little girl and the signing and all of these things. I feel like this really kind of bridges that gap in my brain of like, who the fuck, why is Kong so big? Like, who is he? You know, I feel like this movie really fucking did that for me, and I appreciate it greatly.
Cool. Alrighty, folks. So King Kong 2005, 5 stars from both of us. You can watch it on Netflix if you haven't watched it already. But if you haven't, what are you even doing?
Highly recommend.
What is our next? Let's find my list here. Oh, okay. We've got another cartoon Kong following this, which is definitely a result of this. It's Kong, King of Atlantis, which is a follow-up to Kong, the animated series.
Okay.
It's the same version of Kong, which I think is also widely available on like the Tubies and the Plutos and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we will check that out next week. Folks, you can follow us on all the things by going to mmftg.com, and you can support us by going to patreon.com/mmftg and get early episodes, ad-free episodes, and exclusive patron episodes, and even request movies for us to talk about. Thank you all for joining us. Until next week, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey Bee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Yeah, baby.
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texacato Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.